Hey, Blue Team. This is Mr. Hayes, Coach Hayes, saying hi for our online Chalk Talk video. This is going to be a very important video in your preparation for our first games, whenever they may be in June. We get out there and actually compete. The more that you all watch this video, not just once, but multiple times, and focus in on everything that I cover, the better off that we're going to be, especially compared to other teams that are not as prepared. They're not going to have a presentation like this to go back on and study and look at to, in the best way that we can, simulate what we would be doing on the field if we had all 11 guys at practice at once. So this is the closest thing to that. I put this together for your own good, and I hope that you all take the time to watch it all the way through. The table of contents are here. I'd like to go over our season goals first and review those. We will cover bunt coverages that we may be able to do with the infield group. We go split squad starting at the end of May. Relays, that's going to be more difficult because that's usually a full team practice drill. So please go through all of those as I talk them through it and do that multiple times. Really review those because it covers all kinds of base hits, sacrifice fly situations. Our tandem cuts as well, those sure double situations that we hope to not give up too many of, right? But when we do, we have to be prepared. First and third calls, we're going to need to have that memorized for sure by our first game. So that's super crucial. Base running signs, I might flip the camera on and show you guys that, and then defensive philosophies. That's going to be a lot of information, those last few slides. I'm not going to talk you through all of it, but it's basically just what to keep in mind, mechanics, throwing motion with the mental part of the game depending on the position that you play. Okay, so let's keep going. These goals we mapped out together on the back of that whiteboard in the shed hasn't changed. I don't see any reason why we have to tweak these at all. The first one is something that I've emphasized from day one. You all know that. Getting ahead of hitters, throwing strikes all the time. I know I wanted to keep track of all of our strike percentages for the bullpens that we were throwing indoors. With just fastballs, for the most part, we were at about 50 to 55%, so we have room to still improve there. When we get back out and throw bullpens and train our arms for our first couple of games, don't think I'm going to neglect to remind you of this goal right here. Aim for 60 to 65% in every bullpen you throw. It'll translate over to the games as a result. Secondly, less than 3 errors per game. That is the cutoff number. If we make less than 3 errors per game, we are going to win, period. Other teams will kick it around for us. Let's not give other teams extra outs. Let's not make our pitchers make and throw unnecessary pitches, especially on turf. Let's challenge other teams, and when they challenge us with balls in play, we can make those, especially on the ground at Cahill Park. Number 3, more walks and strikeouts from our lineup each game. The money ball philosophy, let's work the count. Let's take our walks just as good as a hit if they give it to us. Let's make other pitchers throw 30, 40 pitches per inning. Let's get on base and make things happen. Make the championship bracket of every tournament. That's a lofty goal, but all that really comes down to is succeeding in pool play and then making that upper tier bracket if the tournament has multiple tiers, maybe a consolation and a championship. Let's make that top bracket. I think that we can do that, at least give ourselves a chance to take home some trophies this summer. I think that would be so cool to be able to accomplish those things, put them up in the shed, display them very proudly. And then, of course, improve and have fun. It's going to be challenging at times with the new safety protocols to feel quite as connected, but we're going to make the best of it. And even if we're not traveling a lot, even if we're not packed together in the dugout, we're still going to have a chance to be together and compete together, and that's going to be something that brings a smile to my face for sure, hopefully all of you as well. So those goals remain the same. I want to begin with our 3 bunt coverages. Now, bunt coverages are things that we can simulate when we get out onto the field with our infield group, especially, and even with our pitchers. But I would like to walk you through these. They're very simple. They're ones that I've used for many years, and they've never failed me, so I plan on sticking with them for this year. Those of you who play fall ball, you might be reminded of some of these. So the first is bunt coverage 3. This is what I will call out if there's a runner on first base, or if there's a runner, if there's no runners on base, but the hitter at the plate is a bunt threat. So then maybe they're the leadoff hitter, they're a little bit faster. I might just say bunt 3 with nobody on base and have the third baseman play up on the lip of the grass. But otherwise, it'll be, as you can see with the black dots here, a runner at first base. Bunt coverage 3 means the third baseman charges. 3 for third base. The pitcher would fall off to the first base side, so we have both foul lines covered. First baseman would stay at home unless the bunt is hit hard to him, and he can simply just field it and either tag the base or the runner and get the out. Or if there's a pop-up that he can catch, he can pursue that. Otherwise, you can see the infield rotation is outlined here. Second base would cover second, shortstop would cover third, outfielders would be backing up the play, and the catcher is often going to be the leader of this play, if not all the time. They will tell the third baseman or the pitcher where to throw. And kind of the rule of thumb is if the base runner at first, right here, is less than halfway to second by the time the third baseman, the pitcher, or the catcher fields the ball, the catcher can yell out second and try to get that lead out. But if they're more than halfway or halfway, let's be safe and get that out at first. The catcher can see the whole field, so he makes that call. The opposite here with bunt coverage 1. Bunt coverage 1 means the first baseman charges. This is if we have runners on first and second. We want to have a chance to get this lead out at third, so we're going to have the third baseman stay at home and cover the bag, as opposed to the person fielding throwing to a moving target, and so the third baseman can just hang tight there. So the rotation is the opposite for the middle infielders. The shortstop goes to second, the second baseman covers first, so they might want to play closer to first base before the pitch is thrown. If you hear me call bunt coverage 1, I'll oftentimes shoo you over there. If you look at me, I'll call you out and remind you, but we do this a number of times. The second baseman will get in the habit of doing that on their own. Same with the shortstop, keeping this runner honest. So they'll be playing closer to the second base bag, kind of tapping their glove behind the runner. Pitcher covers the third base side now because that is unoccupied. Oops. And the first baseman has the first base side. Catcher is the captain as well. The third baseman can field the bunt if it's bunted hard down the third base line. They can decide to come in and just field it. In that case, let's just take that out at first. Okay. Then lastly is one that is a very rare call. It is bunt coverage 4. This is when I am fearful of a suicide squeeze bunt from the other team. Now this is more of a high school call because the squeeze bunt is used more often at a higher level because it's challenging, it's difficult to call, and most coaches at the youth level don't call it frequently. And it's partially why I do like it, because it takes teams and puts them off guard a little bit. But in this case, if I fear the bunt for the guy on third in the squeeze, I'll have everyone charge. And by everyone, I mean both corner infielders and the pitcher will will charge hard and try to field the bunt. And then the second baseman gets first, the shortstop gets third. Second base, we can leave unoccupied unless the center fielder is really hustling and they're able to get there. This is just if I fear the squeeze bunt, I'll call this out. Plant that seed in your head just in case when you see that batter square, both corners and the pitcher are charging hard. One thing I want to emphasize with the bunt coverage is if you're the pitcher, don't let this disrupt your natural emotion. If you hear bunt coverage 1 from me, bunt 1, don't feel like you got to throw the pitch and then as you're throwing it and finishing, start moving toward the third base side to cover. Finish your motion, go all the way through your mechanics, and then if you see that bunt, hustle to that side of the field. Those are our bunt coverages. Now some scenarios that we might face defensively, depending on where the ball is hit and how many guys are on base. So we'll start with nobody on base. If we have nobody on base, excuse me, and the guy at the plate hits a base hit to either left field or center field or somewhere in between, this is going to be our rotation. As you know, in a base hit, we're always going to relay 2 bases ahead. So if there's nobody on base and the guy hits a single, he's getting first base. He's going to be able to make it there safely. So we want to relay to the next base, the base ahead, and that would be second. If the ball is hit to left or center, the shortstop is the cutoff man, and the second baseman is on the bag at second, talking to the shortstop, lining him up. Third base stays home, first base stays home. Why? So this guy who's hitting can't get a huge turn. Hey, maybe we hit this cutoff, this guy's halfway, we can throw behind. Right field backs up. Catcher is staying home and shouting out orders. Pitcher can kind of meander somewhere around behind second base in case of an errant throw. Right field is kind of the same thing. If there's a base hit to right with nobody on base, the only difference is that the second baseman is now the cutoff man. It's on his side of the field, and the shortstop covers second base. Now, what if we give up a base hit with a guy already at first base? Well, in this scenario, this guy's getting second base and this guy's getting first base. So where would we relay to? Third. Make sure he cannot get to third base, or if he tries, we have a play there. So in this case, if it's to left or center, the shortstop is on his side of the field, so he's the cutoff man. Third base is at the bag, lining him up. Pitcher is backing up third. Catcher staying at home in case of emergency. Second has second. First base stays as well. Opposite, if there's a base hit to right field in this scenario, now this, well, actually, this is going to be the same because the shortstop is going to be the cutoff man in this scenario too. So slight amendment there. If there's a runner on first base and there's a base hit, the shortstop is always going to be the cutoff man. No matter if the ball's hit to left, left center, right center, or right. It doesn't matter. It's always the shortstop. Why? Because typically the shortstop has a stronger arm than the second baseman. So we want the shortstop taking this throw here and making a strong throw all the way to third if we have a play there. So that's why we set it up that way. Everyone else is doing the same thing. Third baseman has to be vocal here, has to be vocal, lining up the shortstop, telling the shortstop whether to throw it or not. It's his play. He's the captain of the play. Now, what if we have to make a relay home? Well, a scenario that might play out like this is if there's a runner on second and there's a base hit. This guy is getting first base because he's obviously hit the single. This guy at second base is going to get third base for sure on a hit. We want to stop him from scoring, right? So we're going to relay home. If there is a base hit to left field with a guy on second, the third baseman is the cutoff man to home plate. Okay? Third baseman is the cutoff man to home plate. So ideally, you would go left field to third base to catcher. The shortstop would circle around, don't get in the way, and circle around and plant at third base in case this base runner takes too wide of a turn, puts on the brakes, we have a chance to throw behind. Second base is covering second, it's unoccupied. First base stays, so this guy can't take too wide of a turn after his hit. Outfielders are looking for places to back up. Center field might back up the hit. Right field might back up first or second. The pitcher backs up home because we're relaying home. So we need someone back there in case of an errant throw. The catcher is the leader of any play like this. Anytime we're relaying home on a hit or a sac fly, the catcher has got to be vocal. Got to not just line up the infielder taking the cut, but tell the infielder what to do with the ball. They're the only one that can see the whole entire field. Okay, so that's this. This applies to not just if there's a runner on only second, but if there's a runner on first and second, if there's runners on first, second, and third, bases loaded. Anytime there's a runner on second base to start the play, only second, first, and second, or bases loaded, and there's a base hit to left, we will do exactly this. If there is a runner on second base, in this case it's second and third, there's a runner on second base to start the play, and there's a base hit to center. Now the first baseman is the cutoff man home. First baseman goes to the center of the field to take the relay from the center fielder and then throw home. And then the rotation changes slightly. Now third base will stay at third in case we have a play there. Shortstop gets second, and second covers first because the first baseman ditched it to be the cutoff man home. Pitcher then backs up the catcher just like before. Same thing with a base hit to right. Same exact thing. First base is the cutoff man. Second base gets first. Short gets second, third stays at home. In this case, I set it up with bases loaded. But again, anytime a runner is on second to start the play, this is what will unfold for us. Okay? What about a sac fly? Sac fly is largely the same thing. In this case, we have a runner only at third. So we have a fly ball. I put it out to center field this time. Because it's center field, the first baseman is the cutoff man. And he will take the relay throw. Now, tandem cuts. Tandem cuts are when we are giving up a sure double. A double that is going into the gap and potentially rolling all the way to the wall. It's a sure double because we're conceding the double. The ball was hit so well, the guy at the plate is going, hide this, the guy at home plate is going to get to second base. Kind of the signal for this is if we see our outfielders' numbers like they're running back to go get the ball and you can see their numbers, that's going to be a sure double tandem cut. I will call that out from the dugout, but hopefully by doing this enough times, you guys can take ownership of it. If the sure double goes to left center field gap, remember we're giving up the double and we're trying to stop it from getting to third. So in this case, because it's the left center field, our tandem cut, tandem is two, so two guys will go up for the cut, will be the shortstop and the second baseman. Shortstop is the lead cut because it's to his side of the field. Second baseman is the trail cut about 15 feet behind the shortstop. This is because this is a long throw. So in case of emergency, if this throw is errant, the second baseman is there to be the safety net. If it's a good throw and the shortstop catches it from the center fielder, let's say, the second baseman would do what? Get down on the ground. Fall down on the ground and get out of the way. You are now not needed. Okay? With any tandem cut, the first baseman does us no good staying at first base. There's no play there. The guy's getting at least a second. So the first baseman will trail the runner to second base and cover second. Literally follow the runner, go behind him, follow him to second in case we have a play right there. Oops, did that again. Got happy fingers. I'm excited to talk about baseball again. Okay, a third baseman would cover third, pitcher would back up third, catcher would stay at home in case things go really awry and he's needed there. That's the scenario with a tandem cut. We're relaying the third, right? So the third baseman has got to be loud. If the shortstop catches it, it's got to be 3-3-3 or 2-2-2 or hold it, or nothing, put your hands up. Make it clear so the shortstop doesn't have to turn around and guess what to do. Third baseman's telling. What if we have a tandem cut to right center field? This is a little bit different. In this case, because the play is to right center field, we have, again, the second baseman and the shortstop are going to be the tandem cut here. I have in this case the shortstop as the lead cut again to keep it consistent, but it can really be either way. Because it's on the second baseman side of the field, the second base wants to be the lead cut, that's perfectly fine. Either way, once again, it's the two middle infielders going out to be the tandem cut, 10 to 15 feet apart. First baseman does the same thing, third baseman does the same thing, pitcher does the same thing, catcher does the same thing. Now, the other tandem cut situation is if we have a moment where we have a runner on base when the tandem cut begins. What I mean by that is that the other team hits a sure double and there's already runners on base when the play starts. In this case, I just put a guy at first. The difference here is we are going to set up a tandem cut to home plate. Why? Because in a sure double, these guys on the opposing team are getting two bases. He's getting the third, he's getting the second. We want to make sure nobody scores. So we're going to relay home. The tandem cut is the same as far as short and second are the two parts of the tandem cut. The difference being they are going to now set up a relay to home instead of third, and the pitcher is going to be a part of it. So ideally, this relay would go from the center fielder here, to the shortstop here, to the pitcher here, to the catcher here. It would go all through those parts. Again, this is so tough to not work on the field with everyone. Hopefully at some point we'll be able to do that. But right now this is the scenario. Hopefully you can somehow visualize this in your head as best you can. So from here to the tandem cut, to the pitcher, to the catcher. Catcher's got to be loud and lining up everyone in this scenario. If the pitcher wants to help to line up these two guys, that would be good too. First baseman does the same thing every time, trails and goes to two. Third base stays at home. That is pretty much the gist of it. That is our tandem cut with a guy on base to start the play. Right center field, it's the same deal. Shortstop and second go out to be the tandem cut. Pitcher is part of it. Catcher is the captain. Third base stays at home. First base trails. In this case, the second base is the lead cut because it's to his side of the field. This is the one exception. This is the Jeter play that we've talked about before, especially in fall ball. Down the right field line. This is the only time the shortstop and the second baseman are not the tandem cut. Now it's the second baseman and the first baseman. Second baseman is the lead, first is the trail, shortstop covers second, third stays. Pitcher is also part of the throw if they need to be, in case this is too long. Catcher leads the way. This is a scenario that might come out maybe once or twice all season, so I'm not going to dwell on it too much. I'm going to pick what's most important here. But once again, the only time that we'll set up a tandem cut where it's not the shortstop and the second baseman going out is here. Down the right field line, down the foul pole, down the line, second base and first base, because of the shorter distance to run, is the two cut. So that's some of the scenarios we might see on the field, not all of them, but I walked you through some of the more important ones. So let's pivot a little bit here to our first and third defensive calls and situations. Again, those of you who played fall ball have a leg up here. Hopefully you remember what some of these are, but this is going to be the scenario that we set up here from the dugout to the catcher to the field. So I will start by calling out a 3-digit number to the catcher. The first digit of the 3 is the call. So if I say 168, the call is 1. The catcher will hear that call from me. The catcher will stand up and will signal to the field what the call is. If the call is 1, 168, 152, whatever it is, they will touch the top of their helmet first and then do a series of other signs. If the call is 212, 242, the catcher will start with their face mask and then give other signs. If the call is 316, 348, whatever starts with a 3, the catcher will swipe their chest first, then give other signs. If the call is 412, 440, 4 is first, the catcher will sweep down their leg first and then go to the other signs. So the catcher, whether it's, probably Ben Van Bell or Michael Adank or Ben Volpe, they have to know the digits. And then everyone in the field, including the outfielders, to know where to back up, has to know the signal from the catcher. So everyone has to know that the top of the helmet is 1, the face mask is 2, swipe the chest is 3, sweep the leg is 4. Now, what would we then do if we got these calls? Well, if I'm going to put Ben Van Bell behind the plate. If Ben touches his top of his helmet first and the call is 1, he's going to simply throw back to the pitcher. We're going to concede the stolen base. So the pitcher has to know that call so they don't get hit in the face. They have to know to catch the ball. If Van Bell does 2 first, face mask first, we're going to allow the run to score, or at least we're going to take a chance of throwing out a guy at second base. So here, 2 for second base. The shortstop or the second baseman has to know this. They have to know to cover second base because we're going to throw all the way down. If swipe the chest is first, third baseman's got to know that because the catcher's going to pump fake the second and throw to third. Third baseman's got to be at the bag, can't be asleep at the wheel. If the catcher sees the third baseman is asleep, don't throw it, eat it. 4, sweep the leg first. The shortstop has to know that, and the second baseman, but especially the shortstop, because the shortstop has to cut in as soon as the pitch is thrown. The catcher is going to be looking for the shortstop to throw it to in between the mound and second base. They got to catch it and throw all the way home, or analyze the play. The runner stopped halfway, run at them. If the runner didn't do anything, eat it. If the runner does go home, you're throwing to the catcher. All right? We'll work on these a little bit when we get out with our infield group, especially, and we start our split squad stuff. Base running signs. Okay, here I'm going to put my camera on, so give me 1 second. Okay, I had to go find a hat. Let's get this camera going here. Hold on 1 second. All right, so hopefully you guys can see this okay. All right, so what I'm gonna show you here is all of our signs. And again, from fall ball, some of you might know these. I've listed them all out here in the slideshow. The first is our indicator is the brim of the hat. So anytime I touch this, whatever comes next is the sign, okay? I have to do this first. So this, and then whenever I touch next is the sign. The indicator followed by the shoulder is bunt. This is a sacrifice bunt. So square early. You can let the whole ballpark know if there's any fans there, and let the other team know it doesn't matter if it's a good bunt. It's going to get the job done. I'd rather you square early than get too fancy and miss. If I go indicator elbow, that's steal. Okay, so obviously the runner on first or second or whomever's on base has to know that. Boom, boom is steal. If I go indicator to wrist, that's hit and run. Hit and run means the hitter has to swing. Let me repeat that. The hitter has to swing. Your aim is to put the ball on the ground. You're trying to hit a ground ball. The runner is off with the pitch, but different than a straight steal because the runner's going to look back as they're running and see what happened with the hitter. In a steal, you don't want to do that. You want to run as fast as you can to the bag. But on a hit and run, you are going to look back in case the hitter pops it up, and you got to stop and go back. Okay? Indicator to the belt is going to be fake bunt. Okay, that is where maybe I want to draw the third baseman in a little bit. Maybe the pitcher's struggling with command. I want to show him something different and continue to get in his head. Maybe I want to do something around a fake bunt steal where I have a different kind of play on. I'll get to fake bunt steal in a second, but fake bunt is belt. Okay, indicator belt. Suicide squeeze is going to be indicator and two tugs of the ear. I'm going to make that super obvious. I'm not going to do a bunch of fancy stuff and then mix this in. I will pretty much just do this. Please, if you're the hitter and you get a squeeze bunt call, acknowledge it by just touching your helmet. I will also whisper it to the third base runner so he knows. Usually I don't give it away. I do it pretty subtly, but I want to make sure everyone's on the same page with that because I don't really call a squeeze unless it's a one-run game or a close game. We've got to be able to do that right. So I want to cover all my bases there. On a suicide squeeze, you are going to square when the pitch is thrown, and you have to get the bunt down. You have to. You have to make contact. Even if it's a foul ball, you cannot pull back. You have to put bat on ball. Fake bunt steal is just the fake bunt sign and the steal sign, one after the other. So it'll go indicator, bunt. I'm sorry. Let me start over. Indicator, fake bunt, indicator, steal. I'll do those back to back. So both things are on. Take is if I point to the third base dugout when I'm coaching third. If I point to like our home dugout at Cahill, it's away from the field, so it's take. But if I point to the field, you have the green light. So if you look at me on 3-0, and let's say you're hitting the ball well, you're crushing the fastballs, we're behind and to make something happen, I might give you the green light. In that case, I point to the field. Okay? Those are our base running setups. So what I also have here, as we keep going, I saw the webcam off. It's okay if I do. Okay. What I have here, and I'm almost done, are the 4 biggest keys to holding teams to 4 runs or less. This is a true stat. My JV teams have won 90% of their games when they hold teams to 4 runs or less, and I think that's the same deal with the 8th grade level as well. Same expectation. I think that's a crucial number. If we can stay under that, we're going to win a lot of games. First, keep the double play in order by always hitting the cutoff man. That's why we work on a relay so much. Avoid the big inning by not giving teams extra outs. If our pitcher works hard to make a great pitch and gets an easy ground ball, we better make that play. Minimize walks, challenge hitters, especially with first pitch strikes. The percentages definitely change dramatically for a hitter 1-0 versus 0-1. And then limit the running game. We're going to work on slide steps. We're going to work on catching mechanics. We're going to work on making sure that we have different pickoff moves. We got to keep the running game intact. We can't allow a merry-go-round around the bases, especially against good teams. The rest of the slideshow is keys to strong infield play, as I have here, outfield play, catching play. Those are things that, quite frankly, I'm not going to read all the way through right now, but I'd like you to take the time to look at those slides. If you are primarily an infielder, look at the infield 1, outfield 1, catcher 1, etc. Please study those. I will hone in on those a lot in practice, but take a look and preview those. As well as this. These are different scenarios where, depending on what we're facing defensively, we have to have a certain mindset. Again, please read through these on your own. I beg you. It'll give you a great advantage mentally when you approach a scenario like, you're playing shortstop and there's runners on second and third and less than 2 outs. If you can have these bullet points in your head, you're going to be at a big advantage mentally, and the mental part of the game is so important in baseball. It's going to be the difference between wins and losses. It's going to separate us from other teams. If we don't have overwhelming talent, if you are the smarter team on the field, you will give yourself a chance to win. So anything here, studying this scenario, so when we face it for the first time in our tournaments or our state league games, you will know what to do. It is crucial. So please take some time to do that. That is our entire slideshow, Chalk Talk slideshow, about a half an hour. Please take the time to watch this, not just once, but a couple of times, and study up before we get going with the season. I will send a link to everyone, but I hope this is a resource that will help you kind of make up some ground with the time lost the last few months. Hope everyone's doing okay. Hopefully, we'll see y'all soon. Have a good day. It's Coach A signing